Okay, everybody, welcome back to Set the Pipe. Special guest on tonight. But first, my host, CK, is here. Bear is here as well. Tonight, Kirsten Bernthal Booth, Creighton's former head coach, just resigned a couple days ago, not that long ago. Kirsten, welcome to Set the Pipe. We're glad to have you on.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
So fired up to have you. We have a wonderful friend in common in Barb, and
Couple of friends.
got a couple of friends in common, and got the opportunity to have you on this podcast, and we're so grateful and welcome to it, and can't wait to just talk a little bit more about your journey through volleyball, and the whole point of us. Hit subscribe, but before I forget, don't forget to hit subscribe and always set the pipe. It's just to really evangelize volleyball, like just get it out there, tell the stories, kind of like we were just laughing beforehand, like just trying to really just show what volleyball really is, the fun, the culture, the great times and the people that are involved in it. So thanks for taking the time to talk to us today.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so let's get a little bit about history. Recently, she finished her Creighton coaching career at 502 wins and 192 losses. That is amazing. But let's go back a little bit. She was a setter for Truman State University from 93 to 96, was named the 1993 MIAA National Freshman of the Year while breaking the school record for season assist. She graduated as the all-time assist leader. She was the MIAA Most Valuable Player and earned AVCA All-Region Honors. She was the state's Missouri nominee for the 1997 NCAA Woman of the Year Award in 2011. And she was inducted into Truman State's Athletic Hall of Fame. And I believe you were in your high school Hall of Fame as well. Is that correct, Kirsten?
Yes, but not for volleyball.
Oh, nice.
That's a story I can't wait to hear.
Yeah,
what sport?
Yes.
Tennis. Do you still play?
No,
Oh,
but maybe in retirement, maybe.
yeah, you're right. Yeah, you
Pickleball.
have to bring
How about
that out for
pickleball? It's
sure.
kind of a
pickleball
pseudo-
might be
But
a
a
little
couple
bit.
times, maybe one of those two is the plan in the future.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Pickleball's a lot smaller of a court. I'll just say that.
Cole's thinking about going pro. Anyway, so
Yeah.
we'll get into her coaching. In Iowa, there is Kirkwood Community College as a head coach. She won 112 matches to 41 losses, a 732 clip, two-time district coach of the year. A change of heart. Went to Division I, Creighton, 22 seasons, correct? Including the wins that we talked about, 14 NCAA tournament trips, 12 regular season conference titles, 11 conference tournament championships. That's a lot. 17 AVCA team academic awards, and featured 9 women who combined for 12 college sports academic All-American accolades. 11 consecutive, not 11 consecutive Big East regular season titles, 13 straight NCAA appearances, 2 Sweet 16s, Elite 8 appearance. This is impressive. Then we get to have here on Set the Pipe. So when you first started, you inherited a 3-23 program. So to go from 3-23 to 502 to 192 is amazing. Yep, she concludes her career and she is stepping into an administrative role, which we'd like to get into at LOVB. And she was a 3-time National Coach of the Year, 6-time Conference Coach of the Year, 5-time AVCA Regional Coach of the Year. And she has also been serving as president of the American Volleyball Coaches Association, the AVCA. Kirsten Booth, we cannot have enough time to talk about your accolades, but we are very excited to have you on Set the Pipe.
I would cut 50% of that out, right? No, you've lost everyone that was listening.
Yeah, no. Like it's amazing. So we've talked to a couple of head coaches on the men's side, and they're just like, I did that. It's different to listen to that I actually did all that, including the high school, including the playing in college, and all the accolades. It's just kind of nice to, I think, to sit back and just kind of appreciate sometimes of what the journey you've gone through. So hopefully you take that. But I had no idea you played tennis. That's crazy.
To go to what Sully just said, how does it feel to hear all that? I asked that question to almost everyone because, when I did my first one, I'm talking about all these things about me. And then I remembered like, oh, wow, shit, I actually did play those sports, and I actually did that, and you start to remember, how does it feel to hear all of that? I mean, you were a star in college, you started at the lower ranks in college coaching, and you're stepping away from, Big East titles and an unbelievable record to move into the new one of the new pro leagues. How does it feel to hear that about yourself?
I think, and I'm sure you guys can appreciate this, those are the destinations, but you really remember the journeys, and the journeys are hard. And so, when I think of like my college experience, so yeah, you got some awards at the end, but the journey had ups and downs and, huge wins and devastating losses, and same with coaching. So, I have had a chance over the last couple of weeks to reflect more than I really have any other time during my professional career. But like anything, I truly believe it's about, like I said, the journey rather than the destination. And I believe that with my own journey too.
Go ahead, Sully.
We've talked about a couple of times on the podcast about home support, spousal support, right? Because there's any sport, there's a lot of divorces out there because you have to get it. Right? I don't care if you're a female head coach. I don't care if you're a male head coach. Your spouse has got to get it. And you've been doing this a long time. And to see your kids thrive, we saw you on TV with, your kid playing for Bobby at UNI, to be able to get there. But that whole family unit has got to be so important to your success. You want to tap into that a little bit?
Yeah, 100%. I actually was just reminiscing with my mother yesterday about saying I couldn't have done what I've done if I'd married someone else. Eric has been, he's the guy making dinners most nights. He's, so many men, when we had little babies, he's getting up in the middle of the night because maybe I'm traveling, and things that maybe some people wouldn't do. He's done that. And then the other thing is my parents, my dad is now deceased, but when my kids were younger, my parents were in Lincoln, which was about 45, 50 minutes from us. So when we had a sick kid, they would come, my mom in particular would come and take care of the kids. So you do need that village. And there's people that get it done. Sometimes they're single and they are able to coach. And one of my good friends, Leanne Williamson at South Dakota, doesn't have family in the area, had twins in October one year, but she's built a community. So she's got friends that are like family that step up. But you have to have that support network to do what we do, because it's a 24/7 job in some aspects.
Especially in college. I mean, I marvel at it every day, especially today, but in so much how much it takes to just be successful, right? And like, you're coaching at Creighton in the Big East, great conference, great program, but you're trying to beat Texas, you're trying to beat Louisville, you're trying to beat, I could go down the road, Nebraska, right? Like the top programs in the country, and hopefully soon out west back here from the UCLAs to the Stanfords and go on. That doesn't happen overnight. Right? You got to recruit. You got someone that signed up. You're so excited. You got to get the next recruit, right? You win that game. You got to win the next game. So like, it's such a crazy job at that level. Yeah, you get paid for it, like at the collegiate level, obviously more than the high school or the club level, but it's a lot of work. So to hear that you have a family that loves you for who you are and lets you do what you love, which probably makes you a better person, and
that's
probably
a
a better
deal.
Mom and a wife for sure. But it's a lot. I grew up a coach's kid, and I know my dad wasn't around a lot, not because he wasn't around a lot, because he was coaching a game or he was an athletic, he just wasn't there because he was working. So good for you. I'm happy that you have that. And that's, how old are your children?
Reese is a freshman in college, just finishing up. She's at Northern Iowa, like you said, playing for Bobby Peterson, has had a wonderful year. I have a junior in high school, who also plays volleyball. She also plays tennis. She picked it up at like a year or two ago. So she didn't play her whole life like I did. And then I have a 7th grader who is volleyball, basketball. We're trying to convince her to play some tennis. So
yeah,
get in the tennis world.
All girls. We only make girls in the Booth household.
And they're all athletes, though. And they're all athletes. They whatever sport, volleyball, tennis, they love to play sports. Was your husband an athlete?
He was, but interestingly, both Eric and I were really involved in music all the way through high school. And we have not had success. Actually, I had a choral concert tonight. It might be our last one. We're trying to convince our 7th grader to do choir one more year.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. So we actually crossed paths in 2012. I was a volunteer assistant at UNI, and that was your last year in the Missouri Valley Conference. And how has that changed? Because at the time, Missouri Valley Conference, I believe that year there was 4 teams that actually went to the tournament, and then you left. So tell us a little bit about that transition. I'm sure you just kind of go with the flow, I guess, but you made relationships, you made some rivalries within that conference, and then you had to switch. So talk to us a little bit about that. I mean, I know it was a little while ago, but still, that was my time that I got to see, hand in hand with Kalani and Bobby and Kim, and I got to see you over there doing your thing, and the battles that we had was amazing. The crowds were, 5,000-6,000 people. So yeah, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so much. First of all, it seems like yesterday when you say it was a long time ago. That ages me, but
and me.
The Missouri Valley was a fantastic volleyball conference. As you alluded to, we may have had 5 teams one year, but we had 3 and 4 for many years. You talk about Northern Iowa, Wichita State was a top 20 program. Yep. Missouri State was really good. Illinois State, and we kind of emerged at the end of that time frame. But what I remember about the Valley were a couple big things. On the good side, the league itself really cared about volleyball. So I remember when we would go to league meetings, it was the associate commissioner who oversaw volleyball, and she was all in, and we felt that. And the coaches were in, and we were always trying to figure out, how do we get more teams in the tournament? How do we advance our top teams? I just felt like we understood as a coaching body and as a league how to advance things. And I learned a ton. I didn't understand that when I got in, in 2003. But the benefit of moving to the Big East was we had name recognition because it was a basketball powerhouse. So what happened was it helped us, even though it was lateral at best at the time, maybe even a downgrade from a league standpoint, volleyball wise. At the time, obviously the Valley's lost a lot of those teams now. But at the time, volleyball was better in the Missouri Valley. And I was like, this isn't really a great move for us. But in fact, it was, because the name recognition of the Big East got us indoors with families because they had heard of Villanova basketball or Georgetown
I can see that.
basketball.
Xavier or
Yes, all those powerhouse programs. So we got into doors we weren't getting in because of the name. And then the Big East has been okay. There's been 2 dominant programs in the Big East since we've been in there. Marquette and Creighton, both of those programs are fully committed to trying to have a national ranked team. And then there's a couple programs that are chewing on that possibility. And then there's some that really aren't very committed, unfortunately.
Yeah. Hey, Bear, you're in junior college right now?
Yeah. It sounds, you were at Kirkwood Community College and you had an outstanding record. I mean, your percentage was 732. Can you tell us a little bit about your community college experience and why would you leave a successful program to go D1? I do coach at a community college and I love it there. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
I didn't know anything about junior colleges until I took the job. And I just finished grad school. I'm kind of thinking maybe I want to coach. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And so I throw my name in because my husband was from outside of Cedar Rapids, but he had a job there. So I applied. My record at Kirkwood is deceiving because I didn't build that at all. I followed a very good coach by the name of Doug Van Ort, who I remember had a box of recruiting stuff, and he really helped me in that transition. And I loved it at Kirkwood. I really did. And, but keep in mind, I was 23 at the time. When I see those players, and I've seen actually several of them over the last couple of years, my first thing is to say, I'm so sorry. I mean, I'm clueless now as a coach, but I was really clueless then. I mean, I think, anytime when you're getting started, you're learning all the way. And I had, some really wonderful young women that helped me learn and had a lot of forgiveness in their heart. But I had a great experience there. I'm from Lincoln. It was Division I. Nebraska, the state of Nebraska was a power. So there was some excitement for sure to go to Creighton, but I have only wonderful memories of my junior college experience.
Yeah. So you did three seasons so why Division I, right? You came from a Division II playing, and usually Division II has the heartfelt, I want to get back to my Division II? Was it just because you're from that area and you're kind of like, hey, it's an opportunity. Creighton's not that good, and I'm doing very successful at this coaching gig. Like, how did you put your hat in and go, yeah, let me try this?
Well, you're giving me way too much credit on the thinking through all this stuff. So, okay. So yeah, we're kind of looking around. My husband was interested in a job change. So we're both kind of looking.
Okay.
And Division II is what we thought we'd do. I was offered the Northwest Missouri State job, which was in the league that I'd been in. I wanted to take that job, but it was in a small town, and my husband's an attorney. He didn't want to like hang up a shingle. So we declined that. I was interested in a job in Minnesota at a D2 school, but I didn't get a look because they wanted someone with the teach. I didn't have the right teaching credentials that they wanted. And then Terry Pettit, do you guys know who Terry Pettit is?
Yeah, I kind of heard of him.
Okay,
yeah.
just making
legend.
Sure. So Godfather of Nebraska volleyball.
For sure, yeah.
He was before John Cook.
Yeah.
Gave my name for the Creighton job, and
he holds a lot of weight.
Life,
Yeah, he holds a lot of weight.
So you're a young coach. You're coaching junior college for 3 years. You're just getting your feet wet. You're learning, and now all of a sudden, you're coaching in the state, which cares about volleyball, if not more than anyone. And you're at Creighton. You're about to coach a Division I program that had 3 wins. What's your first day look like for you? What is your mindset like? How do I change this? Obviously you're excited. It's like you said, I'm going to Nebraska right outside Lincoln and stuff. But how do you go from going like, okay, I'm a junior college coach, to taking over 3 and 20 something program to try to become this legendary, coach at Creighton?
Well, first of all, I was scared, and I think sometimes fear can drive us to try to be great, right? I had no visions of where the program was going. My ultimate goal for the program was to make the NCAA tournament one day. So that was what I really dreamed of potentially doing. I actually mean this very sincerely. I was clueless, and I say that but what I did do well is I surrounded myself with great people. So I hired a coach who'd had great success at the NAI level. He was 10 years older than me. So it helped with recruiting because we had an adult in the room, because I was 27 at the time. So parents might have been like, why do I want to send my kid to this young pup? He knew way more than I did. And then I specifically went after trying to find a past Nebraska player, because I knew what cachet they had in the area.
Of course, yeah.
And I had a GA position. So I literally start cold calling Nebraska players. And one of those players was Angie Oxley, who was just coming off her national championship in 2000. She'd done a year at the NCAA. She was interested in being an academic advisor, was planning to go down to Florida, volunteer with that program with Mary Wise and do that. And I call her, and she says yes. And Angie has been a part of the program, and she's staying on with Brian since I got there. She had no
kidding.
That's killer.
That's
a
so
great
awesome
story. Yeah.
I say this and I mean it. Like, she's the glue to Creighton volleyball. The head coach is the one that you got, but she is the person behind the scenes that keeps it together. She's the person that can say, Kirsten, you are losing your mind. You need to calm down. You're going to stress the team out. I can't say enough great things about her, but I hired well. And then I think I was willing to listen. I remember, so this, again, cluelessness. My college coach had us run about a half a mile to warm up every day. That's terrible, right? We all know that's bad for verticals. And
everyone did it though. That's
what I was doing when we got there. We ran. We did a certain passing, a certain setting, and we peppered every day, because that's what I'd done in college. That's what I did at Kirkwood.
Carry it with you. Yep.
And probably 2 or 3 weeks in, Paul comes up and he's like, hey, can we talk about our warm-ups? But I was open to those discussions. So, I think I've surrounded myself with really fantastic people, and I've allowed myself to learn from them.
Here's my humble opinion on that is, there's even today, that's a big deal to be able to say, I need to hire somebody that's more experienced than I am, right? That I'm not going to be threatened by. That doesn't happen today. I mean, it's very much, I know what I'm doing. I can do it on my own, but you had the fortitude to actually do that. I mean, was that your own decision? Was that like you were surrounded by, hey, you probably should get a nice experienced coach in here? Because I can't tell you how much respect I have for the fact that you did that a while ago, because it's still not clued in with coaches today, right? A young coach that gets an opportunity, maybe too early in this day and age, right? 25, 26, because they want to put her in there. They can't sit back and go, okay, I don't know what I'm doing here, but man, if I can get an experienced head coach, male, female, it doesn't matter, right? To come in and mentor me, because I already have the job and I'm secure with that job, and believe in that person, not to take their job and to trust them. Man, Kirsten, I can't even tell you that this is gold for all those coaches out there. They're trying to make it big, is to align themselves with trustworthy individuals and that have enough guts. Like you said, can we change this warm up? And to trust that, and for him to sit back and go, yeah, but I'm not the head coach. Like,
well, you know what?
I think it's fantastic.
You answered my question without you answering it. I said, what made you, what would you do on day one? And what made you go from 3 wins to 500 wins? That
brilliant.
You're a great coach. Just because you don't know an X and an O, or you might not know the height, or maybe you're not good at recruiting, or maybe you don't like to fly a plane, so you won't go over whatever the reasons are. Great coaches make their teams better. And if that means you hire someone that's smarter than you, great. Means you bring a recruit.
Yeah, you hired
It doesn't
great.
matter. It doesn't matter. So
you.
what tells me, if listening to you, is you were a great coach, even though you didn't think you were a great coach. I mean, you put the right people around you. You just said, you said how wonderful she is, and she's still there. She was a graduate assistant
Still there.
that you picked up the phone and called, and she's still there helping the program out. So good for you that you did that. And again, like Sully said, for all the coaches listening, don't have an ego. Got to have a little bit, but don't have an ego. And if you're trying to win, do what's best for everyone. And if you think you know what's best, and for whatever reason, that's why you have coaches. I hate head coaches that don't listen to their assistants. Why even have them? Just coach yourself then. Coach yourself.
Yep.
I think you have to do 2 things. You have to be willing to really have some self-reflection to say, what am I good at, and what do I need help with? And then I had one other thing with the coaching thing. Oh, the other thing that I've done once in my entire career, and it was a peripheral person. I've never hired anyone I know. And I'm not saying you have to do that, but the other mistake I see a lot is people hire their friends. They hire, and a lot of times your friends are like you. I can nail, you know what? I'd love to work with Bobby Peterson. Bobby is like one of the best humans in the whole world, but Bobby and I are a lot alike. A lot of our strengths are pretty similar. So we probably wouldn't be the best combination. She's near the same age. So I think you've got to look and say, who's different than me as compared to who do I want to hang out with all the time? So I see that mistake a lot. And they a lot of times do that, I think, out of safety, as compared to, I mean, when I would hire, I worked my ass off for a long period of time, calling if I got down to like 4 or 5 candidates, I called a ton of people that were not on their reference list, because anyone can fake it through an interview.
Right.
Of
I want
course.
to know the bad, the ugly on everyone.
Yep. Good for you. That's
awesome.
That's a big deal. And man, if anybody gets anything out of this podcast, that is it. If you're going, not even if you're going into coaching, if you're in coaching today, literally today, it's still not too late to surround yourself. I mean, because we'll take Bobby and Kalani. Kalani was head coach at Oklahoma, right? And he came in, and people were telling Bobby, don't hire Kalani. He was a head coach, but she trusts her gut. And I think she did exactly what you did, Kirsten, was, yeah, but I need somebody that does this, because I'm really good at X, Y, and Z. I need ABC, and I don't have that. And man, he was around for 15 years or something, similar to your situation.
It's awesome, though, that I think it's an important, and for anyone that does want to coach, again, it's about trying to learn and understand something. You coach people differently. You coach everyone the same in regards to discipline. You touch the line, but you might yell at someone differently than someone else. And it's the same thing with, getting your staff and getting everyone in order, and you as a coach. any coach that thinks they know everything isn't a good coach. And you would talk to some of the best coaches ever. They would always say they need to learn, and they're still listening, and they're still trying to gauge, and they go listen into other coaches and stuff like that. And so that's it. That's definitely an important piece. So this might be a transition. So you do all of this for Creighton. You build this unbelievable program. You do such a great job. Your daughter, your oldest daughter, is a freshman playing college volleyball. What made you decide to step away from Creighton volleyball and move to the new pro league, and touch a little bit upon that, if you don't mind?
Yeah. Well, first of all, it was a very, very difficult decision. I have loved my time at Creighton. I could go on and on about what an amazing experience. I think it came down to, I turned 50 this year.
Happy birthday.
And what?
Yeah. Happy birthday, youngster.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Actually, it was
Welcome to
last
the
year,
club.
if I want to be clarifying things. But my brother was the one that said, "Is this what you want to do for the rest of your life?" And it got me really kind of thinking about options. And it wasn't that I didn't want to do this for the rest of my life. Like I really do love coaching, and maybe someday I'll coach again. But it got me thinking. My master's is in higher ed admin with an emphasis in athletic admin. I always thought I'd be an athletic administrator. And so then with the pro stuff that, the couple of the pro leagues had reached out, we have 2 teams here in Omaha. So obviously there's some connections there, and it just got me kind of thinking. And then I chewed on it at different times. And then really kind of from January till mid-March, when I stepped down, I was kind of checking on options. And it's a startup. I feel like Creighton Volleyball was a startup in 2003.
Yeah,
Sure.
And I really do believe in the people that are running Love Volleyball, that their intents are good. I also really think, gosh, what a legacy for the sport that's giving me so much. If I can help be someone that can get this thing going. You guys got to grow up. Maybe you dreamed of being an NBA player and an NHL player. And, hopefully someday we can have men's professional volleyball in our country. But little girls, really the only team sport is the WNBA. And that's kind of being hit by the NBA. So we want to be the first sport team sport in our country that can hold itself up.
I think it's going to happen. I think it's, let me rephrase that. It's happening. And whether it's the LOVB, which you're a part of, and we're going to continue to talk about, the PVF is doing a fantastic job. I'm watching it on TV. We've had Holly on here because she does a lot of their games.
Furbringer on here from LOVB. Yep.
It's so exciting. I'm married to a volleyball player. She played volleyball in college, so to talk to her about it and see the joy on her face, in a different joy than it is for me, being a woman and growing up in her generation of trying to be a woman athlete and being treated equal and getting fair opportunities. And everything has always been about men. Professional sports has always been about men. It's still about men. And so to see this take off like it's taking off, it's incredible. And I'm a fan of volleyball, so it's awesome. A lot of my friends, my own kid, my son's girlfriend, they were involved in the LOVB. So it's just great to see it taking off for the young girls. And Sully mentioned this, and I'll say this, and I like to talk, so I'll try to keep quiet. But when I'm a kid, or my kids are kids, they're young, and we're turning on the Laker game like last night. We're watching basketball. We're watching the Super Bowl, or there's the playoffs, or there's nowhere to put your little daughter, if she loves sports at 9 years old, to watch something on television other than the NBA or the NFL or baseball, or, they've done a really good job with college softball with ESPN over the last 15 years. So, but that, and volleyball in the last 5 years has done a really good job with TV. But again, we're talking about 9 or 10-year-olds that are playing outside, it's a Saturday at 2. There's nothing for them to watch to embrace the game that their mom or dad are trying to teach them. So that's also really cool for us to see so many opportunities for younger girls and women in this country to be able to play here and not have to go over across the pond.
Yeah.
100%.
So Kirsten, before you answer this question of what are you actually doing at LOVB, is you're old school, right? You're old school to a point that when you transferred, you had to sit out a year, in Division I, and then within the last 3-4 years, transfer portal, NIL, money going crazy. It's a different atmosphere. Did that play a part in you stepping down?
It is a different atmosphere. It did not play a part in me stepping down.
Interesting.
Thank you for that answer. Appreciate you being honest.
Because there's coaches out there, they're going, what, you know, it's not what I got in here to do anymore. Right. And you see those stepping down in different sports. Right. But
absolutely.
I just wondered with the timing, you're just like, wow, this is a lot. This is different. It didn't play a part.
It didn't, because I knew at some point it was going to hit us, but we never had a kid transfer up, like, you know, say, I'm going to leave Creighton to go. You know, we were fortunate that our players stayed. You know, we've had kids transfer that weren't playing, and I fully support kids like that. They want to be on the court, and we always try to have honest conversations. The other thing is, we were fortunate. I mean, I don't need to dig into the weeds too much, but Creighton won't hit the revenue cap because we don't have football. So we actually are sitting very pretty from a rev share. So we could compete in the top 10 nationally. So no, that didn't play a factor. Now, with that said, it could have down the road. I think even though we had money, I really had trouble pulling the trigger. And I don't blame the athletes for this at all. I mean, my husband really kind of reframed it at one point for me of like, hey, if Reese had the chance to get $50,000, would you be upset? And again, she's not looking, that's not her opportunity or looking to transfer, but I understand kids that do, especially if you have financial issues. I mean, that's transformational money. So I don't think we can blame any of these athletes for trying to better themselves, just like we would professionally, right?
Blame the NCAA is who I blame.
There's Coley. There he is.
Sorry, I say it on every podcast.
The NCAA maybe didn't navigate things perfectly, but the NCAA lost every lawsuit fighting this. So
well, yeah, because they should have changed this 15, 20. They should have changed it 20 years ago when they had the chance. That's where I was saying. I mean, I always use the Terrell Pryor who played football for Ohio State. Like he wins the Orange Bowl, sells his jersey later that night for a couple grand, and he gets supposed to win the Heisman next year, and he misses the first 4 games of the season. Come on, like the guy played in the Orange Bowl with his jersey with his name. Like if they'd have figured it out then, again, I go on this tangent forever. So that's why I always say it's their fault. Like it is a debacle. It's sad. I'm on text chains with programs are getting cut. GCU just cut the program for men's volleyball. There's programs like sports programs like Sonoma State here in California that just cut all of the sports. It's happening all over the country because of it. So I know. And I don't want to just blame them anymore because it's gotten crazy. But you said it's really hard to put the athlete when you're saying, hey, here's $100,000. Like, really? Like someone's giving you $100,000. Like, how do you not look at it? How can anyone not look at that? Or when the basketball, you're talking millions of dollars.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The hard part is it's going to be more transactional. And, I think I speak for a lot of coaches. We got in to build relationships and build them as volleyball players, but equally build them, if not more, build them as women and, or whatever gender you're coaching. And so that's going to be the hard part. And we definitely have reaped the benefits of some 1-year transfers, primarily COVID kids, to be honest. But our lifeblood has been kids that have been there for 4 years. And those, you can build great relationships in a year, but it's different when you have someone for 4 to 5 years. I mean, they truly are like your daughters.
Yeah.
Well, I think the pendulum will swing back. I really do. I mean, it has swung too far, and it's not even like it's way up here. Like it's so off the rails for everyone. I mean, football programs are having $20-30 million salaries for these kids. Like they should get paid. I've said that from day one, but it's become stupid, and someone's got to put some form of program around it, whether it's contractual where you're like, where they're a pro, something's got to change because the
federal government has to probably get in. There's people lobbying right now. Several of the, I know, I think it was Keegan at Minnesota, and a couple of his players, and who else went? There were Jamie Morrison from A&M. So there's actively trying to see if they can get some federal legislation involved.
Yeah, it's going to be, we talk about it a lot, and we can, move on because I'm sure we could talk about it forever. It is going to be a really weird 2 to 4 years, I think. I'd say 5. And your daughter's right in the mix of it. She's a freshman in college. I have a son that is about to be a senior in high school, and he committed to play basketball at Washington State in 26 when he graduates. So we're in the thick of that too. Like, what happens? Like, I don't even know. And we talked to a lot of the guys on the men's coaches from Alan Knipe at Long Beach, Hawks at UCLA. They don't even know, because men's volleyball is even in a different unique setting with the money and the funding they have. So I think it's anyone's guess what really happens.
And I think the mid-major is an interesting discussion, because I think they might play the role of junior college.
Yeah.
Because if they can't compete with that rev share number, they say, instead of going to that P4 school and sitting on the bench, why don't you come play for me for a year or two, let's take basketball, score 12 points a game, make all conference. Now you can go into the portal and make more money. And I have already talked to some schools that they're using that as a recruiting tool. We're not going to hold you back when you do well here. We're going to help you move on.
But, and like you said, Kirsten, Sully asked you the question, was that a reason why? And you said no, which is awesome. But those coaches you're talking to are doing what we've said on this podcast. They're adapting. So I'm going to give him a shout out. He's the head coach at Cal State Northridge, where I went in basketball. And we saw his kids playing in a tournament, and I saw him, and I support the program. I didn't play basketball there, but he said that to 3 or 4 parents friends of mine. It's like, listen, I'm at Northridge. Like, I'm not going to get the kid from Kansas. However, I might get the kid from Kansas coming down. Come play here. You're not going to get $100,000 or $1 million. But I just sent a guy to BYU. We just sent a guy to Oklahoma. So yeah, come here. And like you said, they're embracing it. They're pushing it forward. That's the way it is. Like, if you think you're going to recruit, and I'm using my alma mater, Creighton's a little different in the basketball world, but you're going to go to CSUN. It's a state school out here, and think you're going to get paid $1 million to play basketball. You're an idiot. Well, that's why you probably went to CSUN. It's my alma mater, so I can say that. But that's not going to happen. You'd be lucky to make $10,000 at CSUN, but that might be where you're playing college sports. So you're right. It's adapt and move forward, or don't adapt and just call it a day, because it's going to be a weird environment over the next few years.
Hey, Kirsten, so on multiple pods, we've talked about last year's tournament. It was, from beginning to end, amazing volleyball. Period in the story. I mean, Bix, and I mean the D's and the quicks and the threes and the, and it was, the volleyball was at the highest level I've ever seen it at. We're trying to get Bear into women's volleyball a little bit more, but
I'm watching some more.
Yeah,
but Bear.
But so I want your take on last year's tournament. 1, 2. It was great to see on TV the drama of it all, and then to include you to go coach a match, go fly to see your daughter play, and then they have you as a mom. That was unreal to me. I just think that's brought so much to the sport, so much to women that want to coach and say, I can do both. Family affair. So kudos to you, 1, but it was just kind of neat to see you not in that coach's role. It was just kind of neat for me, right? And it just built up that whole last year's tournament. Yeah, can you just kind of describe last year's tournament? Because like I said, I think it was the highest volleyball I've seen ever.
Well, that's great to hear. I think sometimes when you're in it, you don't know. But I do have moments, even matches that we were playing. Sometimes you just wanted to stand up as a spectator and clap and just say, what a remarkable point. Sometimes we lost those points. Like, one of the things we always try to do is, it doesn't, there's good volleyball on both sides. We can celebrate both sides. Right. Yep. So, yeah, I mean, I think the good thing is the parity is getting better in volleyball. Mm-hmm. And I think, we need to have more upsets, and the depth of talent around the country is going to allow that to happen. Right. So we're seeing more and more of that, similar to why I think men's basketball, March Madness, is so fun, while women's basketball still has to get more parity. I mean, it's obvious they've got, only a couple
3 or 4 teams that win by 55 in like the regional final. Right. You're not supposed to be winning by 55 to get to the Elite 8.
And sorry, getting to be a mom was pretty special. We played Old Miss on Friday night. We played South Dakota State on Thursday, and then we played Old Miss. And man, we were in a barn burner. I mean, it looks like a sweep, but I think it was like 28-26, 28-26. And then we did dominate the third game, but it was tight.
Yeah.
And then not Louisville, Northern Iowa beat Illinois, which was kind of an upset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least not on paper, but
Not on paper, right?
physically. So anyway, I told my husband, because he was already in Louisville, and I said, well, if both teams win, because I knew if I knew even if Northern Iowa won and we lost, I'm a wreck after the end of the season for like 2 or 3 weeks. So
Right.
like I know I shut down. So I was like, I can't even fake it and go. So, but we got done at about 10 p.m. I booked a flight and I caught a flight at 5 a.m. And, it never dawned on me, maybe I'm naive, but it never dawned on me I'd be on television that whole time.
Oh yeah. Well, you were mom mode.
I looked like total hell. I get up, I didn't have any makeup on. And we had like 2 hours in the hotel and my youngest was like, let me curl your hair. And I'm like, thank goodness. Cause I would have been, I didn't know.
She prepped you. That's
Anyway,
awesome.
I didn't know I was on TV till after the fact, but
Yeah.
I tell you what, it was so wonderful to be there. And if people don't know how it ended,
Oh, the match was
they
brilliant.
lost in 5 and they missed some. I mean, it was a
The
really
serves at the
painful
end.
ending
Yeah.
to a wonderful match, but it was probably more important for me to be there when they lost. If they won, Reese didn't need me at that point, right? There's so
Right.
much joy, but it was nice to be there, especially since they did lose.
It was such an amazing match for women's volleyball. And of course, everyone, well, not everyone, but a lot of people didn't want Louisville to lose since it was at Louisville.
Louisville, right.
Would have crushed them, the NCAA, financially a little bit more. But it was such a fun, like Sully said, like I've been watching volleyball forever. Like I have a wife that played women's and friends play at the collegiate level, and to watch the level consistently being played from the first match of the round of 64 that was on ESPN Plus, where they had every single match on, which was amazing. Good. Just again, what you said earlier, how awesome is that? Right. Every match in the tournament, first round was on TV. You 10-year-olds all over the country can watch, women playing college volleyball, which is rad. But it was such a high level tournament, and it was pretty amazing to see the level consistently. And then, obviously there's an injury here, injury there for the final, the last match of for the championship. But that game you guys played in was crazy. And to lose that's the thing that sucks about it is it's, when I was younger as a competitor, all I cared about was winning, and I could have cared less about the loser. I'd look at him and couldn't deal with it. As you got older and you started to lose in those matches and see the heartache that you've dealt with, and then for your child to see that heartache in that match when you lose, what do you say? Like they played their asses off. They played an amazing, and someone has to lose, right? That's what sports are. So I'm glad that you were there for her in that moment, because she was part of such an amazing match. But then to be there in that situation.
Yeah, it was. It's one of those moments you don't say anything, right? You just love them, and they knew they'd played a heck of a match. They knew they missed some opportunities. But I do want to make a comment of watching that as a spectator, that match. The rallies were insane, and there were at least a dozen that would have been stopped if we didn't change the double contact rule, and play went on, and it was awesome. And I don't know where you guys stand on that rule. Maybe we're going to have a debate here, but I watched it and I was like, this is why we changed it, because it was like when we changed the first contact, back in the day. I don't know if you guys are old enough for that, but
yes, we
that
Old
We
enough?
weren't able to
the
do that.
game.
We weren't allowed to do this when we grew up.
Not
No,
exactly.
We all played in the early 90s. We're a little bit older than you.
Just a little bit.
But we played it in the early 90s, and you couldn't use your hands. The only ball you could double hit, the only one, and it was the ref's discrepancy, was a hard-driven ball. That's it. The only time you could ever double contact the first
And you
hit.
had to have your hands together.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
together.
couldn't
A hard-driven
be
ball
come
you could
across.
kind of maybe, but no one was taking the ball with your hands ever.
No.
It was a double. It was a weird thing.
Well,
I'm
that's
torn
weird
on it.
Yeah, because you're a setter. So
I am a setter.
like, okay, so you don't have a strong opinion like, oh my gosh, it not too many people can use their hands very well and come out clean. And
Well, I
so,
have
yeah.
a strong opinion, but
What's
that's not the side that I'm on. I think this is what I've learned in my role at the AVCA. if we're going to grow volleyball, we need the average fan to understand the rules, and we need it to be TV friendly and points to go on. So if you are stopping play with a double contact, fans go, what just happened? The average fan, people that
Understood.
don't the game, they say,
Yeah.
what just happened? Why did they stop play? And so that has always resonated with me of how do we get, you guys are volleyball fans. You're purist. I get it. Like, you understand it, but I want to get that guy next door that's never really watched volleyball to come and watch the athleticism, and that stops the game. So that's always resonated with me of how do we build the sport. And I think that's one way.
Then
But
we
I
gotta get
know-
better. We gotta get better with
you
challenges then.
do.
That's for sure.
Well,
The challenges take forever.
Well, that's something that just implemented the last years. I think that'll get better. I'm torn on it. I understand the reasons, and I think it's the reason why they originally changed it, because it doesn't better the ball. This hitter's still got to hit it. This was years ago. I get it. I just think the skill set is taken away a little bit. I think it went from you can't do it to we kind of can do it to you can do whatever you want now. I think it needs to come back just a little bit more, like
Some more
setters
center, yeah.
lifting the ball. I'm watching, like, the power dump. It's not even, it's like you're grabbing it and throwing it. Like,
I'm with you there. I get you
like
there.
that.
But
I mean,
will tell you,
I'd
as
have
a
hit
coach-
800 in my career if I was able to do that. And I already hit
Even when
450.
they're setting the ball over the net on the third contact, it's supposed to be tight, but it's still like they're throwing it off the block and out of bounds. I think that's a
That's
little too much
happening
control.
more in the men's game. Women are
It
starting
is.
to do that, but that's on the more on the men's side. But I will tell you, my natural hair color has gotten really gray because of the inconsistency of the double contact, and my blood pressure reduced a lot last year. So that maybe that was my other
And that's okay though. And I'm fair with that, because you're at least saying, listen, you're making it away from the refs mindset, like, well, it's a double, it's not a double, like nothing's a double. Okay, great. So nothing's a double, you can go through it. I do think there's a few things, again, I'm not going to argue it. It's better for the fans. It's more, and again, that's a great way to put it. Like, we need more fans. We need the casual fan that didn't grow up like we did, playing volleyball in the pool and the beach and the grass and just every which way in Sunday, that to watch the game and enjoy it. I just think it's like the skill set needs to be just a little bit more, because then that's just my opinion.
Well, and we don't know yet, right? It
Yeah.
just changed. I mean,
You're
what are
right.
we going to be teaching 10-year-olds? It might totally be different. I mean, we'll redo this in about 10 years and discuss it and see what we're seeing.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm 6'5", and I played middle, and I was a above average height middle back in the early 90s. The way the game is today and the way my body is and what I do, I would have never been a middle. I'd have been able to pass with my hands. I wasn't a great passer like this, but I have, for a middle, I can use my hands. So like I'd be a completely different player, right?
And so like we just can't let Coley think he could be the setter. That's all we have to do. Is like, if we bring like Coley, no.
I should have been a setter though. I was a
Well,
quarterback,
Coley-
so I should have been a setter.
You'll appreciate this. You know what we did last spring when this rule changed? I went into the staff and I was like, we're going to have our middles be our secondary setters. So we trained it all spring. And the players, the first 3 weeks, the middles were like, whoa. And we hit 270 off our middles last year.
It's awesome.
Really?
We hit 200 off our bro. We hit 150 off our bro the year before.
No kidding. There
So
you go,
our
Coley.
numbers,
Interesting.
and then if you watched our match against Texas, so we'd worked all year on them attacking the second ball. So they'd go up the set
Oh,
and then almost like a slide
sure.
approach.
Yeah.
And we pocketed it. We told them we do it in practice. We don't do it in Big East play. We're going to pull it out in the NCAA tournament. And we didn't use it against South Dakota. I think we pulled it out once against Ole Miss. We pulled it out twice against Texas for
Worked.
huge points.
Yeah.
And 270 off the middles. You
Right.
could have been a setter.
Well, the thing is, and it's funny because that's how we did it back in our day.
Yeah.
The
Yes.
middle
Middle
did
would
set.
set.
Well, the
Yeah.
right
Yep.
the right
Well,
back
right
would come in
side would,
occasionally,
right.
but like with these guys had Brent Hilliard, so he would be in the back row still. But
Yeah.
the middle, Winslow, like we did set back then, and so I look at it going like, wow, like I would be so middle, and I hit out of the back row. So like, if I was a middle in today's game, I would play 3 rotations and you're out. Like you don't even set the ball, you don't serve the ball. One libero does. You don't do anything. Like I'm just like it's such a different specialized game. But that's great that you did that and that you changed it up. That's rad. You got to always evolve Go back to that. I mean, I love that the libero has all that, but why not have the middle if the middle's not doing anything? Then they're right there, easily right there to cover.
Middles always want to set. They always want to
do.
set. They're in the
We
way.
do.
They don't want to transition
Well,
all the time. They
even
just
this
sit
spring,
there.
they're like working on dumping. I mean, they are in a whole. They are loving it.
Oh, it's so
funny.
amazing.
It's so true, though. So I'm like,
it is. Well, that's us. It's us middles. I mean, you played middle too.
Yep,
That's what we love to do. So what's your role at the LOVB, and where do you see, in your opinion, it's 2025. We're sitting here in May. Where do you see women's volleyball in 2030? And what are you doing directly for the LOVB?
Well, I start on Monday, so I'm just about to start the job. I've taken about 3 weeks off. So
excellent.
I honestly think it's a little bit fluid on what I'm going to be doing.
Awesome.
It got to a point that I either needed to get on board or I needed to stay at Creighton. So they said, we want you here. We're still going to figure it out. I think the things that I know is I'm going to be on the pro side, because Love Volleyball also has a club side. So I'll be on the pro side. On the admin, I'm not planning to coach. I think in the short term, I'll be kind of the way that the League One setup is that it's a corporate level for a year or two until they're eventually going to franchise
them
I
out.
think some of that will evolve. So the short answer is I'm not quite sure, but I'm excited, and I think they'll probably look at my skill set and see if I'm useful somewhere or totally useless.
Startups are great, so that's cool that you're part of a volleyball startup too. And then, sorry, I would love to hear your answer to the last question.
In 2030, I think we'll be to one league. So
hopefully,
which one, right? Yeah, makes it. Hopefully, it's a merge rather than a cannibalization. I think everyone's concerned about that because we definitely want one to merge. I hope we're at maybe 16 teams around the country. I hope we're on television for every game. And I hope we're at, somewhere, I think 10 to 12,000 average around the country, maybe more. I'm not good at goal setting. I'm going to be honest, because I always try to put things that I think are attainable, while some people are like, we're going to do
way up there. Yeah.
And when you say 10 to 12,000, you mean people to watch matches?
Average
fans.
Yeah.
I would say 7 or 8 if someone was going to give me my 5-year plan, but I don't think that's far off, and I don't think it's unreasonable with what we're seeing right now. That's a great, I appreciate that, because I'm curious. I think there needs to be one or two would be tough, but one with more teams to give more women opportunities. West Coast, East Coast, kind of NFL model in the early days of the NBA, where you have West Coast, you do your thing and then you play a championship. But if there are 16 teams and there are professional 16 cities and it's on television in 2030, you and us three will be smiling because things are going to be doing damn well.
Yeah, for sure.
I hope we can do it.
So now you're walking in the door of LOVB and you have your sights 3, 5, 7 years out. Where do you see foreigners, right? Because they have a setup in their countries of so many foreigners coming into their league, so many, Americans or Canadians or whatever the case may be. Are we open booked? Are we like NBA where it's just anybody in the world can play here? Do you have a sense of what LOVB wants to do?
It's a great question that I have not asked.
No, yeah.
I think from what I remember from Ferbs, it's a good question you can ask them. I think they want the best players in the world. That's what I believe. And if that's, Europeans or South Americans or the Chinese, the Japanese, whoever, anywhere coming over from where they're playing in the world, I think that's what they want, the best. So, because if you're going to go spend, if Kirsten's going to take her family to the game, she wants to watch the best volleyball. Right? Like if you're watching professional.
True. But I will say, I think one of the things that they've leaned into is trying to find people from, take the Omaha team, a lot of Nebraska players,
kids, Austin,
players,
Texas kids.
Austin is Texas. So
maybe they limit it.
I think there's a balance for sure, but I don't know the answer to that. But for sure, I would guess right now the answer is let's get the top talent in the world and convince the as compared to the Americans have always gone to Europe or Asia, let's convince them to want to come over here.
Yeah. And I would think hopefully, like, because it is an American league, at least for now, right? And you're trying to get the best players. Maybe they do what they used to do when we were all playing in Europe. You get 2 foreigners or you get 3 foreigners. Because I even though I'd like to make it the best league in the world, I'd hate to see it in 10 years from now, every team is 90% foreigner, right? That's great for volleyball, but it's not growing the United States women's game if that's what we're going to end up doing, is just completely, taking everyone over. But having a women's pro league here in the United States, I think I know it would be, at least my kid has it because it's the NBA, but like give those younger girls and young women in college now something even more to attain and strive and work out to be. Not like, oh shit, I got to maybe I'll go to Lithuania, Germany, my friend played there. Now that you could, if you live in Nebraska, you can play in Omaha, you can play in Madison. You can, again, right now we're the 2 leagues, you can play in San Diego, you can play in Indianapolis. Like there's all these places you can go play. Maybe I'm going to go serve some more balls. Maybe I'm going to go work out a little harder in the weight room. Maybe I'm going to do this. So those international players that might have been better this year aren't going to be better in 2 years, right? Because now we're going to see our younger girls and younger women training with more of a goal in mind. That's what I think. That's just my opinion.
I agree. Yeah. It's exciting.
It's exciting.
So Coley brings this up a lot, and you being very high up, the highest up in the AVCA, we talks about, are we missing the boat about how we train? Because it seems overseas they're passing us, right? And it looks at the Olympic gold medals and how we're placing. Do you think we put too much emphasis right now on playing and not training? I mean, we've talked about this, Coley, how many times on this pod? 5 or 6 times already. Yep. And I want to hear your take on that. Now that you're away from the college game and you can see it with a little bit different lens, where do you see us standing from an American volleyball perspective compared to the world and how they approach it of learning volleyball and competing versus training and competing?
Well, first of all, I'm not an expert of how people train around the world. I think, I know most about the Brazilian model, which is kind of lots of play, right? What I will say this though, as someone that has kids that have gone through club volleyball since they were young, what I see, in my opinion, the mistake that we're making is we're way too focused on winning at a young age. So I'm seeing 11-year-olds being specialized and coaches that care about winning, and a kid that has great talent, but maybe not high skill yet, not getting much playing time when they all need to play, or you need to be on small enough teams so that everyone can play. So I think that's the thing that the flip side is I've also seen clubs that are at that age playing everyone 6 rotations, and everyone has to play back row and everyone has to learn to set. And I think we need to do a better job of teaching the game, because the other thing is at 11s, that girl that's the tall girl might be done growing,
The libero in 5 years.
Yeah. And I just think I do get, and parents are part of this problem, but I do get frustrated when coaches are so fixated on winning at the young age. And I think in my opinion, if you're coaching that age, if you get the parents on board of what we're trying to do, so you talk to them prior and you say, listen, we want to win, winning's fun, but that's not how we're going to determine if we win a match. So you guys need to cheer if we get 3 contacts, depending on what level. You need to cheer for everybody, even though maybe that kid that's not the great passer we're putting back there, because we're going to develop that kid as a back row player, just as your kid might be short, and we're going to develop her as a front row player. And I think if you talk to parents and communicate and understand the why, they are much more apt to get on board. We had a soccer coach. My middle daughter had a soccer coach that was really into passing, and I don't know soccer. So she would send us what the goals were. So it wasn't about getting balls in the goal at 7. It was about doing XYZ, which I didn't know. But you know what? I appreciated her communicating, because I knew what to cheer for as compared to just cheering for goals.
Yeah. So, you said a couple things which really just solidifies what I've talked about, and what Sully brought up is the way it's trained here compared to other parts. Is you're right. Why is an 11-year-old? Now listen, sports are sports, and we all go to play the game to win. I was maybe too competitive as a kid, and at least with my first kid. So, of course, sports are competitive, and everyone knows the score. There's nothing wrong with that. That's why we playing the game. Of course, you're trying to win. But trying to win and not teaching the kids to play and winning is totally different. And so goes back to what you're saying is, why is an 11-year-old kid traveling around the country playing volleyball games when each team has 3 or 4 that are probably pretty good and the rest aren't? Like, why aren't they back home practicing, doing what you said, going around rotations, having fun, competing, playing, winning or losing at the same time, and having fun with the sport and going to have pizza afterwards? We've pushed it so far where, again, it's not everywhere, but a lot around the world is they're teaching these kids at 10 and 11 to practice. We're going to play. We practice, play, practice, play. But you go, your daughter plays. You go to a tournament. You play 6 matches in a day. Sometimes it's 6 to 8 in 2 days. Like that 8 o'clock match on Saturday, no one gives a shit about that at 3 o'clock on Sunday. Like, but you're worried about winning and you're not teaching and you're doing, and so like, that's where I have a problem. And that's what I miss the most. And why my wife and I are going to get back into coaching soon when my son goes to college is I missed that part of like teaching. I just want to coach young kids and teach them how to play the game of volleyball and have them fall in love with it. And I wish we did more of that. I think, I forgot who was on the call. Maybe it was Alfie or someone was saying that we're falling behind we're really ahead in one part in the international and we're behind in some of the others. And I think that's part of it is we need to stop playing as much at the young ages and teaching and that. So, but I like the way what you agree with. And I think it's an important piece to do that. And since you are part of the AVCA, I don't know if it's something that can be nationally pushed. Obviously I'm sure you tell parents, you're a parent, is like, when you go look at a club for your daughter or your son, whatever sport it is, do your research, right? Like find out what they're about. Just because they've won 3 gold medals in the last 10 years doesn't mean it's the right fit for your daughter. Maybe they win 3 gold medals because they have all the girls that are so far advanced that they're already going to Stanford and UCLA. That's not helping you to learn. So like when you look at clubs or anything, it's important to do that, I think, so you can find out what's important for you and your child.
So last question for you, Kirsten. So you're going to go back and watch Creighton play?
I will.
Okay.
I will watch probably more Northern Iowa. Northern Iowa actually plays at Creighton this year.
Okay.
It's a 4-year tournament with Rice, Louisville, Creighton, and Northern Iowa. So that goes on. They'll play every year for the next. Bobby has a daughter at Louisville, so that's why we set the tournament up.
Yeah.
It's been an interesting 3 weeks because my whole staff stayed on. I love them. They're dear, dear friends. The player, there's no hard feelings with anybody. So, but with that said, I've really tried to pull away.
Right.
But I talk regularly to Brian and I talk to the coaches regularly. And that's been with intent because I feel like if I'm around, it could mess with things, but I'm getting them through the portal.
Sure.
Which is just opening now. When it closes, I hope to start reaching out again to the players a little bit more. But I want to do it right. Of all things, I want to empower Brian and the staff, and I don't want, I want to love the players up, but I sure don't want to be a distraction. So it'll be a fine balance, and I'll lean it. Brian and I are close enough that I can lean in, and he's comfortable saying, no, I stay back for a little while. But I also think he's comfortable to say, hey, we could use you right now. So I hope I can navigate it in a
I have one last question for you. How did your family take the decision for you to stop being out till 7 to 12 at night with film and traveling every day in the fall and the summer? How did your family take the decision?
Like, yes.
So
I'm sure it was a group decision, but how did your kids take it?
I think, the media here has really tried to lean into, she's doing it for family. What a great mom she is.
Yeah.
My kids all wanted me to stay at Creighton. That's all they've known. You know, they have gotten a lot out of the experience. So they wanted me to stay. My husband has been wonderful no matter what. You know, this is a risk. I'm going to a startup, so there's risk. I think,
but it's a startup you love, though. That's cool. It's you're passionate
I think he's excited that I hopefully will be around more. But this is new territory for all of us. But I will say they've all been supportive.
Oh, that's great. You're going to need that. So,
yep.
Hey, before we finish up, can we circle back to you a little bit on all the accolades that you had? Can you just tell us a couple of your favorite moments as a coach and as a player?
Gosh. Okay, so as a coach, I would say some on-court moments were our first Missouri Valley win, first Missouri Valley championship against Wichita State in 5 sets at Wichita is a huge moment.
Wow. Against Lambeau, yep.
We beat KU to go to the Sweet 16 and then on to the Elite 8. Gosh, I think it was 2016 in an 18-20, 20-18 fifth set match in Lawrence. And that was, I mean, I can still get chills about that one. And then, I mean, beating Texas this year when they were the 2-time defending champs were huge.
Jarrett's a good friend of mine. That was a tough loss for him.
Yeah. I remember talking to Eric Sullivan afterwards, and he's like, "You guys played great," and I was like, it was like this balance of like, I meant it as a compliment, but like I said that win was a program changing win for us because of what you guys do at Texas, and I hope you took it the right way, but like it was obviously huge for us. You know, the off the court stuff that I'll remember is like the late, like getting home, flying in at midnight, and we would always pack into this shuttle because we didn't want to spend an extra $600 renting a shuttle for a 5-minute drive, and they would like sing Christmas carols, and I loved the women. Like I loved the women so much. So anything that like a moment with them, you know, those are going to be the things that I miss. So
that's awesome.
My playing career was so long ago, I can't even remember those things. But but yeah, there's so many wonderful memories, and it is amazing how you already start to forget the bad memories.
Yeah, that's what I miss the most, and we talk about it. I mean, that's why us three are doing this. Is I miss those bus rides. Like I don't miss. I mean, of course, I miss playing, but the journey, like all of that stuff, is so amazing, and it's such a part. I mean, look at you're on here, Kirsten, because I still talk to Barb, and I met Barb in 1989 playing in the U.S. Olympic Festival in Oklahoma, and you know, it's an incredible sport, and those are the things I don't even remember. I mean, what game we played, you know, like, but you remember those things. And
but
so
Coley gets better every year. He gets better every year, even though
he's out of the middle. Did you hear that?
Yeah, no,
my hand set the pipe.
Remember when I
always set the pipe?
No, you didn't set, Coley. You just
I've set in a match or two in my day, but yeah, I don't even remember. Like I like you said, Kirsten, like I walk outside, I'm like barely walking. I think to myself, like, was I really a 2-sport collegiate athlete? I mean, I can't even walk down the street. Like
3-time All-American. Go ahead.
Yeah, like really? That's me.
Thank you, Sully.
It's crazy. Yeah, thanks.
3-time All-American.
Appreciate you throwing
first
that
team
out there.
3-time All-American. By the way, so Coach Booth, congratulations on an amazing career. And like I said, I was very thankful, I guess, looking back at 2012, being able to see what you do firsthand. And just an amazing career, and I'm sure Creighton's going to miss you, but LOVB has got a good one. So thanks for coming on Set the Pipe, and again, congratulations on your whole career.
Yeah, thanks.
It's nice meeting you.